What's up, guys? Dreamcastguy here. Had to do a rant today about how I think Gears of War Judgment is the worst prequel game of all time. Probably the worst prequel of anything of all time. Now, let me back this up. I know right away you're going, what about Star Wars? I mean, they fucked that hard. I mean, yes, Lucas did fuck that hard. He fucked it long and hard without a condom, and he didn't even spit on it. But that was saved in the pretty good Star Wars games. Think about these Star Wars prequel games. Like, if we're talking about the farthest back that universe goes, if we're talking Old Republic or Knights of the Old Republic, very redeemed. Now, if we're talking about more modern day remakes and prequels, there is Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider, fantastic. If we're talking about Metal Gear Solid, all of its prequels, I mean, I put 300 hours into Peace Walker. Peace Walker and Metal Gear Solid 3 are fucking amazing. Amazing! Now, we have Gears of War. Now, Gears of War had a fantastic trilogy that introduced a lot of incredibly interesting mechanics that were completely abandoned in this prequel. Instead of every prequel likes to add something new to the series, add new strategies for combat, which is the way it was with Knights of the Old Republic. A lot of interesting leveling system there. For in Tomb Raider, we learned more about her past. We see a new, interesting, more savage Laura. For Metal Gear Solid, we got to see a more like rough and tumble Snake. We got to see how Snake's father became Big Boss. We got to see him build Outer Heaven. I'm gonna hate to say this. In Devil May Cry's reboot, we got to see a more emo, realistically homosexual Devil May Cry Dante, which is weird. I don't know why the series needed that, but it worked, I guess. I hear it's pretty fitting. And then there's even people who did prequel books. Like, we're talking about Halo had probably one of the best sci-fi fantasy novels I've ever read that fully illustrated Master Chief's upbringing and everything. This is a love letter to consumers. This was like a, we know you guys wanted to know this. No bullshit. No stupid hideaways. This is it. Now, Gears of War has a fantastic extended universe as well. And I know a lot of people don't realize this, but there are actually Gears of War books, which are fantastic. Times to talk about when he's in prison. If you buy any of the limited collector's edition stuff, there's actually all this interesting stuff like the COG flag, of course, which I used to have hung on my wall, and cool, like, medals of honor. And here's a picture of Adam Phoenix when he was very young with a letter to his wife during wartime, hoping that her pregnancy with Marcus goes well. And they just kind of abandoned all of that storyline for Gears of War Judgment. Really pretty much all of it. We learned about the Pendulum Wars in the Gears of War books. We learned about what happened directly after. We learned about E-Day, Emergence Day, and we learned about the craziness that happened. We learned a lot about Baird. We learned about Cole. Like Cole, who's one of the fan favorites of the series, kind of annoyed me in the games, but in the books, I loved him because one thing that Cole does is every night for the last 10 years, he writes a letter to his mother to let her know what's going on in his life. Even though his mother's been dead for since E-Day. She was one of the people that was killed, and he does it just so he can have that outlet, that repentance. He just needs to, like, let someone know the things he has to do to save humanity. And instead, they decided that, no, he's just a bear. He's just a bear. That's my imitation of the writing team for this fucking turd. But the main thing is, okay, here are the main things that Gears of War introduced that were abandoned in Gears of War Judgment. In the original trilogy, they introduced down but not out, the concept that you would reduce a target to 1 health, they would fall down onto all fours, and then later be primed for an execution worth additional points. Now, in Gears of War 1, it was just a simple stomp on them or something. Gears of War 2 and 3 had special weapon executions, also the ability to crawl away, and so if someone's like sniping and they don't get a headshot, you can crawl back to your team and get revived. Now, Also, another thing they introduced that was massively emulated was the Horde mode, introduced in 2 and 3. It was a ability to fight waves and waves and waves and waves of bad guys, 50 waves to be exact, of increasingly difficult enemies. 3 mastered this to the point at which I think it's probably one of the funnest things I've ever done, is doing that, because you're able to build and level up defenses, build up turrets, build up barbed wire fences and trip wires, and summon in airstrikes and stuff. Really, really good. And then the third thing that just blew me away that they completely abandoned was action reload. They invented action reloads. They perfected action reloads. They abandoned action reloads. Now, action reload is still in the single player campaign. Down but out, not out, is still in the single player campaign. Fancy executions are no longer in any game mode. Your options are step on their face or use them as a shield. There are no longer any of the fancy things. No longer being able to use people as a movable target. Like in Gears of War 3, you could actually grab a target, pick them up, shoot with your pistol, and then stick a grenade in them and kick them at their targets, making them basically a running landmine. Lots of fantastic things completely removed. So down but not out and executions removed. Action reloads completely removed from the multiplayer, and in a single player it almost seems bizarre. And then the main thing is Horde mode has now been replaced by survival mode. Survival mode already has built-in stops, basically built-in tripwire, built-in turrets. Everything is already there instead of being able to customize your base. And instead of being on every single map like the original Horde mode was, instead it was on 4 maps, because instead of just being live for all these waves, instead they have a target that they are trying to attack that you must defend. It is only 10 waves now as well. And it's a snooze fest. It is a real snooze fest. I have now put in quite a few hours of Gears of War Judgment. I just finished doing the last declassify in the single player quest. And it's just boring. They removed score mode, so they removed a lot. I mean, I could go on for 30 minutes about the things they removed. But the real point is, it's ruined. They didn't even bother making up a collector's edition. I was totally going to buy it just so I'd have all the collector's editions now, and they didn't even bother making one up. They were just like, if you're still buying this shit, you're as dumb as us. Cliff Blazinski's gone. The ship's sunk. Go home. Party's over. Game over, man. Game over. So remember, when you're looking for high quality content from a good licensed brand, you gotta look at the bigger companies, because Epic Games it's just not the same. This has been Dreamcastguy saying, keep dreaming, keep playing Dreamcast, and keep your eyes on the skies.